Well, that's it, Matt Paulson, episode 6 of the Handy Homebrew Show. And today we are talking about the topic we've been waiting for a month and a half.
Right. All grain brewing.
We're talking all grain brewing.
Right.
Now, this is the process we both currently use, and it's the process that we got to after going through a brew in a bag or an extract. This is this is what the big boys do.
Right.
This is what the professional brewers, this is how they make their beer.
Right.
The all grain process.
Yep.
Now, today is more like an intro to the all grain process because it's so encompassing that we're going to cover it step for step in some future videos.
Okay.
That's my plan.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
You're going to do the same thing?
Yeah.
We should film it then.
We should film that.
We should do that then.
So what we'll do today is just cover basically the introduction to all grain. We're just going to talk about a little bit about each step, and hopefully in future episodes, we'll kind of break down each stage of the all grain brew, and we'll probably talk a lot about equipment because there are gazillion.
You can go any direction. You can go any direction you want. You can have
the
smallest thing you want to the largest electrical all grain system, pumps and all that. So there's a plethora of topics to talk about. We'll dive into what temperature to mash at, and the pH levels of your sparge water, and how much boil evaporation you'll have in an hour boil. We'll get into all that.
Right.
Right now we're just talking the intro to all grain brewing. Right. Matt Paulson, what is all grain brewing?
Well, all grain brewing is making beer using 4 basic ingredients: water, grain, hops, and yeast.
So that's just the breakdown. Those are the building blocks.
That's the building blocks.
Instead of extract, instead of having stuff in a can, instead of stuff that's been made by a company, we are going to yeast, water, hops, and grain. That's it.
That's it.
That's all it takes. Now, we can add stuff to that to build it up a little bit, obviously, but it just takes 4 ingredients.
Definitely.
Now, the all grain process, the way that it differs from the other processes, it's a little bit more encompassing. It's the bare bones of brewing, and you get to decide, start to finish, a lot of things.
Right.
A lot of things. You get to decide on amounts and temperatures and grain bills and hop utilization and adjunct additives and pH levels and 1,000 different things you could do. It's a little bit overwhelming, but I will tell you right now, get into all grain brewing. You might have a bad batch every now and again, but it's part science, part art.
It is
what I like to say. It's part science, part art. And once you get to it, you're in it.
I really enjoy it because you have so much control over the outcome of the beer.
Yes.
That's what I like.
So that's one of the best pros about it.
Right. That's definitely a pro.
What's a con?
It takes so long to do.
A little bit longer of a brew day, isn't it? A little bit longer of a brew day.
Little bit.
You got to mash in there. You got to fly sparge or batch sparge. You got to Vorloff. You got to slow transfer to get all those sugars that you extracted out of your grain.
Right.
It's a little bit more involved of a process. It's not for the faint of heart, but you can do it with a few pieces of equipment. You really just need a mash tun.
Yeah.
And a boil kettle. That's really it. If you got a container to hold hot liquid, you can heat it up in your boil kettle, put it in your hot liquor tank, and have that transfer in here. But I've seen people do all batch all grains where they do batch sparge, so they don't even have to use a third vessel. They can just use their boil kettle. They throw the hot water in there to stop the conversion of sugars, and they transfer all the delicious work right out the bottom, all the good stuff, and they boil it and they throw some hops in there. Bada bing, bada boom. You got beer.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. You got beer.
So since we've kind of started talking about some of this stuff, let me go through my list of what I think a standard all grain brew day consists of. First and foremost, cleaning and sanitizing.
You still got to clean and sanitize. Guys, episode number 1, clean and sanitize.
Right.
Come on now. Oh, episode number 2. Hell, I don't remember. Yeah. We're already into 6.
I know. It's been so long ago.
I'm so lost. We're going to be canceled. I mean, we're going to be celebrating our 100th episode anytime now.
Right.
Anytime now.
We're just around the corner.
Clean and sanitize. You got to take care of your equipment.
Right. Second, strike water, hot water. We're going to use beer terms because we talk in beer terms, but if you guys don't understand some of the terminology, just do a Google search for it.
Google search. It's easy to find. We'll add links to the bottom for some of the steps for you.
Yeah.
So you hear things like hot liquor tank and strike water and sparge water and fly sparge and batch sparge and Vorloff and wort and things like that. utilization and IBUs, and that's what we're trying to get into. We're trying to teach you guys, but at the same time, we want to expand the horizon for the people that already know how to do it.
Right. Third step is the mash. Basically, the mash is where you take your hot water and your ground grain, you combine those two and let them sit for a little while.
And typical about 60 minutes, but
yeah,
some people say sugar conversion ends after 30 minutes. There's a whole lot of books out there, the How to Brew books, and some people do these cool things now, Matt Paulson, overnight mashes where they put all their grain in and for like 100 degrees even, let it sit for like 12 hours. There's crazy things you can do.
Right.
You can't do that with extract and boil and bag.
No.
You can't do that.
No.
You can only do that with all grain. That's the cool thing about all grain.
Yep. After your mash, you're going to heat your sparge water. And then after that is up to temperature and your grain is sat for 60 minutes, 24 hours, however long you think you need to go, you do the sparge. Now, the sparge is basically just a fancy word for rinsing the grain.
You're clean. You're getting all that sugar off of it.
Yeah. You're just going to take all of your sparge water, dump it over your grain however you would like to do it. There's 3 or 4 different ways to do that
Batch
I know
and fly
of.
and partial and all different kinds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But basically all you're doing is rinsing the sugar off of the grains that have sat there in your mash tun for an hour. After that, you're draining all of this liquid off into your boil pot.
None of this is boiled yet. This is all just, 148, 150, 152, 154. We're trying to hold it at a temp for an hour without even your fly sparge water or your batch sparge water, your partial sparge water. That's only like 170 just to rinse all that grain, end conversion, and get all that delicious, sweet wort out of the bottom of your mash tun. But nothing's boiling yet.
Right.
It hasn't boiled yet.
Right. So here we are. We're, I would say, maybe halfway through your brew day. Now you're ready for boil. Bring your wort up to temperature to boil. And now you're going to do your hop additions.
And that's 60
you
minutes,
know,
45 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. Whatever you're going to do depends on the profile of your beer. You
Right.
can add it just like you would in brew and bag and just like you would extract. It's almost the exact same. It is the exact same process. It's just that you have done the wort on your own instead of getting wort out of a can or doing wort on a stovetop. You can do all grain on a stovetop still, by the way. You don't have to have an outdoor rig. I got an outdoor rig, and I'll show it to you right here. It's right there. You don't know where you're looking because I haven't taught you this yet. I've been getting really good at the editing tool. So there's a picture right there, right here.
I see.
Of my, yeah. That's pretty cool, right? You didn't expect that. Curveball. But you don't have to have a big outdoor rig or some fancy equipment. You can still do this with a cooler and a couple pots in your kitchen.
Right.
Now, your significant other might not be happy with it because it's going to get bigger and badder every single time.
It will.
Your whole house will smell like a bakery. But you can still do it. It doesn't have to be a big 15-gallon brew outside. You guys can still do something.
You don't have to have a 15 or 10, a 5-gallon.
I've seen people do 1-gallon batches of
1-gallon batches
with 3 pounds of grain.
Yeah,
a little bit of grain.
Yeah.
So, Matt Paulson, we talked about kind of the process. We're getting our wort from that mash tun. We're getting a boil kettle. We're adding. We're dropping the temperature. We'll talk about cooling and stuff on one of the future episodes. We'll break it down with plate chillers and immersion chillers and recirculation, counter flow chillers. What are some of the... I did pros and cons, right?
Well,
I got to stop drinking.
we gotta do some more pros and cons.
We got to do more pros and cons. Another one of the pros that I love about all grain brewing, it's cheaper.
Oh, that's the one I was gonna do.
Now
I gotta think of another one.
Sucker. There's when you break it down per beer, per pint, it's much cheaper to buy grain that's been unmilled. Hops, you can buy bulk hops, bulk grain. You can buy bulk yeast if you wanted to and make your own yeast starters.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier process when you don't have to buy specialized equipment or specialized parts like that.
Right.
And the only specialized equipment you need for all grain that you don't have with the other ones is a mash tun. And if you look at the videos below, about 2 years ago, I posted how to make a manifold for an extremely cheap mash tun, and it really cost me about $5.
Yeah.
Cost me $5. I still to this day, I made that mash tun 3 years ago. I still use it for everything. I can do up to 15-gallon batches in it. It was a $20 cooler, $5 worth of parts. Bada bing, bada boom, I got a mash tun. So that's the only specialized equipment you need to do all grain is a mash tun. And there's 1,000 forums on how to build one and what's the best way to do it. And it's your way. Whatever way you want to do it, that's the best way to do it every single time.
Yeah.
What else? Pros and cons?
The control, I said already.
Fantastic.
That's my favorite part of it is I get to completely create whatever I want to do. And
dial it in.
And here's the first thing that I thought whenever I got into all grain brewing. How in the world am I going to come up with a recipe? Well,
God, I didn't even think about that.
because, you know,
It's intimidating.
It is very, very intimidating.
It's intimidating. And it shouldn't be. What's your
No.
favorite beer?
Right.
Build a recipe like that. Look
Right.
up a bunch of other people's recipes, follow forums, ask your friends, get on our Twitter account. We got recipes all the time. Try it.
Yeah.
Try it. Get a kit and try their kit and then change the grain bill.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Change the hop schedule. Change it up.
Find a good local homebrew shop is your first choice to go to.
Yep.
If that's not something that's available to you, websites out there that will ship to you, they have kits that they've come up with recipes already.
Yeah. Good recipes. Very good recipes.
Really good recipes. And they'll ship those kits to you, and that'll take the guesswork out of how do I build a recipe.
And it'll get you dialed in on your equipment.
It will.
It'll help you dial your equipment in, and now you got a recipe kind of template to start from.
Right. And then so what you can do after that is, like Dustin said, okay, so you like that recipe, but it was a little too hoppy, or it was a little too malty, or it was a little too something that you didn't like. Do some reading. You know, just try to figure out, well, why did it taste so citrusy? Oh, maybe it was the hops.
Why is it so malty and sweet? Oh, my grain bill, I didn't like this type of malt they used.
Right.
Let me research other malts for Matt Paulson. We could sit here on this $45,000 camera that our studio provided for us,
right,
and talk all grain brewing for 24 hours straight and never tire of it. And we don't know about this much.
Right.
So we're going to keep this as an intro episode.
Yeah.
And then we're going to dial it every single week. Let us know what you want to see. Something you're working on, let us know. We're going to do a brew day. We'll film that section. We're going to film all the sections. We'll start building them as videos. So this is our introduction, all grain brewing. It's a long one. We got a lot going on. We've got stuff with kegs coming up. We got stuff with transfers coming up. We got stuff with yeast stars coming up. We got everything coming up. So stay tuned. You guys have been doing a great job with feedback. Leave it, retweet, follow us, subscribe. I think we're done.
No, not yet.
No?
One last thing.
What is it?
We're not beer experts, just beer enthusiasts.
I am a beer enthusiast. Matt Paulson, real quick.
Time for Pints and Picks!
Pints and Picks! Pints and Picks, episode 6. We got a real quick one for you today. We got excited with the all grain thing, so we're gonna try to keep the video not over 45 minutes about all grain and Pints and Picks. Matt Paulson, I could keep going. I just talk. I get really excited. Matt Paulson, what beer do we have today for Pints and Picks?
Today we have a Breckenridge Vanilla Porter made with real vanilla beans.
Ooh.
Breckenridge is a brewery from Littleton, Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Breckenridge, Colorado, too.
Right.
That's where they started Breckenridge, and then they got the big production thing in Littleton.
Right.
Fantastic little brewery. Did just get bought by one of the big boys. It just got bought by one of the big boys. Still makes great beer.
Right.
I'm not going to play that whole as we grab beer. They haven't changed a thing. They're still making great beer at Breckenridge Brewing Company.
Right. 5.4%.
That's not too high.
Not really
that's
high.
Not bad.
That's really about the information for that.
Okay. Oh my gosh, the smell of a porter.
I've had this before, and I really like it.
I've never had it. Let's get in there real fast. It's very light. It's very light. Oh my gosh, vanilla.
Woo! Yeah, right at the end.
That is vanilla right there. It's almost juicy on the tongue with that vanilla.
It's a very, very strong vanilla flavor, but
you don't get a lot of vanilla aroma, but boy, that flavor.
Right.
It's like drinking a cream soda almost. Got that cream soda feel.
Pretty close.
I like that.
You know what I really miss from this porter though is the chocolate. I don't get a whole lot of chocolate flavor out of this.
The vanilla is just overpowering.
Right.
I don't get any coffee notes or chocolate.
Right. And I don't know, maybe that's just my expectation of some of the porters I've had in the past. I get a lot of chocolate and coffee. Maybe I'm looking for a stout though.
Yeah.
You know,
that's why they make different beers.
To get the chocolate and the chocolate and coffee flavor.
And that's why we got options.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd all be drinking the same beer. Today, we are pairing our pint with one of my favorite movies ever, a comedy that Matt Paulson's actually seen. It's called Idiocracy, starring Luke Wilson. This movie is about a man in the military who is right in the middle of the bell curve. He's not smart. He's not dumb. They freeze him for an experiment. He wakes up 500 years later. America has gone to the dogs. Everybody's IQ is dumber. They've been breeding in an exceptional way. He winds up being the smartest man on the planet.
Right.
There's just it's a hilarious movie. It's very funny. Got a little bit of social and political commentary in there, but just the one-liners. I mean, it's
full of one-liners.
It's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes. Right. It's what plants crave. What are electrolytes? It's what they make Brondo with. It's a great movie. Pick up Idiocracy. Didn't even come out in theaters. This was right to DVD years and years ago, about 10 years ago. $4.99 you can probably find online. It's hilarious. Grab yourself a vanilla porter by Breckenridge Brewing Company. Grab Idiocracy. Watch Luke Wilson and funny President Camacho. That's my favorite character. I love President Camacho. Grab Idiocracy. It's hilarious. Matt Paulson, anything else before we wrap this up today?
That's all I've got.
Matt Paulson, you're not a beer expert.
Just a beer enthusiast.
Cheers. Have a good one. I didn't do the hand thing this time. Nah, that was good. It's real good.